I was panicking over this exact question. What do you make free? What do you make paid? A couple of things happened. I started offering some really low dollar content. That triggered something for me. I love that I made that shift. Now, it really isn't a question that I think a lot about beyond just saying in the free content, I show, and then in the paid content is where we really, unless it's going to make a massive, massive impact.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another session of Searchie Spotlight. I'm here today with Jerry Potter. Jerry, how's your day going today?
Good. I am always jazzed to talk about Searchie, which I realize probably sounds geeky, but I'm always down to do that.
We're in the same boat, Jerry. I do this for a living, and I'm still obsessed with talking about Searchie. So I'm really excited to talk to you about Searchie, but I also want to talk about Jerry. So I was wondering if you could start us off with the old faithful, tell us who you are, who you serve, and what market you're in.
I work with entrepreneurs, primarily coaches, course creators, and membership owners on attracting leads using social media and then converting them into sales. A lot of the social media education and coaching space is based on reach and views and some of these vanity metrics. So I've really narrowed down to focus on the things that I think are important. And I find most people do is actual leads and sales. I love what I do. Much like Searchie, I could talk about social media all day as well.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about the path that it's taken you here, because we've talked about a couple niches just in your answer there in terms of courses, membership sites, and coaching programs, and leads specifically. Social media as well is a relatively new industry. So what's driven you to where you are today?
Well, I actually worked most of my career for about over 20 years as a radio personality or radio presenter. My wife and I actually hosted morning radio shows all over the United States. After that industry sort of went through some changes, essentially it became more automated and less connection. I realized that my love of it wasn't really about music or the technology or anything like that. It was really about people and connecting with people. And the beautiful thing that happened, 15 years ago now or whatever it was, nobody needed a corporation to have a show or to connect with people. Now we can literally all be media companies. That's all you do, or you use it to promote your business. And so that was kind of the first step. And then the next piece was really realizing how many people have something amazing to offer the world, whether it's helping somebody achieve their dream or solve a problem or whatever it might be, and they were having trouble getting in front of them. And I didn't know that this was something that came naturally to me at first until a few people kind of pointed it out. But it was like, oh, well, I want to make it easier for those people. So I love to think about the ripple effect, whether it is, somebody that, again, is helping them solve a major problem, or sometimes it's a nonprofit or whatever it might be, but that ripple effect that we can have on the world when we're all kind of helping each other. And so my main thing is like, look, you've got something that people need. Let's help them find out about you.
That's amazing. And I'm so happy that you've talked about, that transition and the gates opening in terms of content creators being very specific type of people working in very specific types of industries, to those gates completely opening with the advent of the internet, where anyone can be, a content creator now, and anyone can share what they're passionate about with the world. I know that you yourself create a lot of content, both free and paid content. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more in terms of, relating back to what you were talking about with lead generation as well. But when it comes to the free and the paid content, how do you decide, what's the free content and what's the paid content, and what's the relationship between both types of content?
So I'm a relatively young entrepreneur in the sense that I've only been working full-time on my business for about 3 years now. Before that, I had no desire to even have a business. It wasn't until I entered the membership experience world and found out what memberships were. And then I went, oh, maybe I can be an entrepreneur. So not that long ago, I was panicking over this exact question. What do you make free and what do you make paid and all of that? And so I kind of got to the point, a couple of things happened. I started offering some really low dollar content, like, hey, this is $10. Come learn this. It's going to help you in your business. It's $10. That triggered something for me. It made me sort of lean more in abundance mindset to where it was like, oh, well, they're paying now, so I can show them all the good stuff, even though it was $10. And before that, I was literally like, oh, well, I don't want to give anybody, too good. That's what they should pay me for, which I think, when we start as an entrepreneur, we have a little bit more of a scarcity mindset. So I love that I made that shift. Now, it really isn't a question that I think a lot about beyond just saying, in the free content, I show beginning stages, how to set up a Facebook business page, how to choose the proper Instagram profile, things like that. And then I do trainings just to kind of show people what's possible. And then in the paid content is where we really nail down into systems and implementation. Because one of the things with social media is quickly becoming an industry kind of like health and fitness and weight loss. We all know how to eat healthy, right? Nobody's sitting at home going, I assume these cookies are healthy. We know fruits and vegetables and things like that. We just can't bring ourselves to do it. And social media, a lot of time, is becoming similar to that. I'm not saying it's quite as obvious with social media, but a lot of people at this day and age know what to do. They just kind of need the systems and the shortcuts and the implementation and the accountability to really put it into place. And so that's where a lot of my paid content sits.
And I'm so happy that you're able to talk about implementation in that sense, because I think that it definitely is one of the biggest driving factors of providing people with very personalized content experiences when it comes to reaching those individual goals. So speaking of content experiences, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you're using Searchie specifically in your toolkit of how you serve entrepreneurs in terms of helping them move towards a more streamlined, simplified way of doing business.
Yeah, well, Searchie is great because people can get to the content they want right away. And, another evolution in my business a few years ago, my original membership, I was putting out a brand new 60 to 90 minute masterclass every single month. And to get the value, you had to set aside that time. And, a full-time business owner, whether they are working full-time in their business or they've chosen lifestyle design and they only want to work 20 hours a week, they don't have time for that unless it's going to make a massive, massive impact. And so Searchie allowed me to take that longer content and help people get to the part they want quicker. That was kind of the initial thing. But now the way that I'm doing it that I really love is that Searchie allows me to have custom content in the hub for each member, each student, each client. And so one of the things that I do now in my Social Media Leads Lab membership is I do private post reviews. And so rather than putting up a social media post and then having it not work and then going, why didn't this work? And then I say, oh, well, probably because of this, this, and this. Now they can ask me ahead of time. And so it basically each member has a custom row. It would be, I think, row section inside Searchie. And they're the only ones that can see it. And so they send me their copy for a Instagram reel or a feed post on Facebook or whatever it is. And I use a Searchie Chrome extension. I hit record. I walk through how I would improve it. I add it to their playlist and I'm done. And for them, it helps them take action because they get this feedback beforehand. Their content performs better. And one of the reasons that social media is so tough to be consistent with is because if we're just doing what I call posting and hoping, we're just throwing stuff out there, it's not really encouraging to keep going, right? If we go to the weight loss analogy, weight loss doesn't get encouraging until you've lost 10 pounds. And then you're like, oh, this is working now. And so that was one of the things that I could never have done without Searchie. But now I can offer that because Searchie allows that. The other thing we do too is when we do live Q&As, I've got members all over the world. Not everybody can come to a live Q&A. And so we use the ability to share the link to a replay queued up to an exact moment. So if Jill asks a question and she's not on the Q&A, then afterwards my team will send the link to Jill. And when Jill clicks on the link, if it's 18 minutes and 32 seconds in or whatever, it immediately goes, Jill's question was such and such. And I go right to answering it. So again, this is saving my members time and helping them getting back to implementing as fast as possible.
I love how you kind of took that full circle in terms of how that personalized content becomes key for implementation. And then I think also along the way, the value of repurposing content, because I find that a lot of content creators, especially as they create more and more content, worry about that older content getting lost in, you know, the digital dust, which is something that we say sometimes.
Yeah.
Really able to see how that implementation, you know, is kind of fueled from that personalized content and the ability to take a 60 to 90-minute session, kind of break it down into much more digestible and actionable steps for your members as well. So you mentioned something there in terms of having a membership site specifically. And I wanted to ask about how having a recurring revenue stream like a membership has impacted how you kind of allocate where you spend your time as an entrepreneur. You mentioned at the beginning that, you know, you kind of made the shift to full-time entrepreneurship around 3 years ago now. So what have, you know, the last 3 years held for you, and where do you see yourself in 3, 6, 9 years from now?
So to go back 3 years, I just sent an email to my list about how 2020 was the scariest year of my life, and not because of the reason that it was for a lot of us, although that was part of it. That was the year, you know, December 2019, I quit my full-time job at the agency, said, okay, I'm going in, I'm going to do this, I'm going to run this thing full-time. And 2 weeks later, my wife lost her job. And so all of a sudden here we were, 2 young kids, no official salary. My business was starting to bring in stuff, but no official salary, health insurance, benefits, all just gone. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so I went into, okay, we don't want to lose the house. We want to keep food on the table. What do we do? And so I started doing course launches, and I would do a course launch and be like, okay, we're okay now. And then a month later, it's like, oh, and now we're back at zero. Okay, let's launch again. And so in 2020, I did a course launch, and this was a $500 course. And I did a course launch, I think it was like every 7 weeks. And I just kept launching it and launching it and launching it. And it was exhausting. And it was stressful having the income go up and down and up and down. And so this is where having a membership has changed everything. I didn't really have a business yet. I just sort of had an audience, and I had a total stranger reach out to me on LinkedIn. He said, hey, I've seen your YouTube channel. You must be making lots of money. How are you making money? And I'm like, I don't know. Am I supposed to make money with this? And so he said, let's get on a call. And he told me about memberships and the value of this and the recurring revenue. And, you know, eventually I found Stu McLaren, and everything changed from there. And so to answer your question, like what's changed now that I have recurring revenue? I mean, we travel. I can take easy weeks if my kids are off school. I don't have to work all the time, or I can take a whole week off. Last week, I went to have a retreat with my mastermind on the other side of the country, and I didn't have to work much in my business, but money still came in. A month before that, I went and spoke at a conference, same type of thing. And so the recurring revenue of memberships has changed everything. But the biggest thing for me is I'm a worrier, and it is removed. I'll say the majority, not all. I'm always going to be a worrier, but just and from that, the health standpoint of lower anxiety, better sleep, all of those things has been fantastic. And you also asked, where do I see myself in the future? So I see myself doing this for many years to come. I am always looking for new ways to help people implement faster. We have obviously in recent months seen this massive onslaught of AI. And I think with AI, content alone is not going to be enough. Content only programs are not going to be enough. It's going to require the support, the implementation, so I've been leaning more into templates and different tools like that can help people get results faster. And occasionally my wife and I will buy, not regularly, but occasionally we'll buy a lottery ticket, and we'll have that dream, like, well, what if we didn't have to work anymore? What would we do? And I really do love what I do enough where I would probably keep doing it. I can't say that for sure but I mean, as of now, it really, because I've been able to build this in a light and easy way that fits what I want to do in life, and I enjoy what I do, I could still, see doing it. I may not hustle for sales or new members as much anymore, but I would probably continue to work with and serve the people that are there.
Jerry, that was incredible. I got like shivers at the beginning when you were sharing your story. And I think that your story echoes with a lot of people in the similar space where they worry about that stability and they don't want to hustle for sales, and they're looking for a more efficient way of doing things. And I think that sometimes if we're, just in it and creating that content and going through it, it can be really challenging to set that time aside or to think about ways that we can simplify a lot of the ways that we do our business if we're feeling burnt out, right? We only have so many hours in a day. And if the goal is just to make enough money to make sure that we're not at zero, it can be a challenge to put that time aside. So I wanted to wrap up this interview with getting your take on, you've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs in your work and in the content that you've shared. What strategies have you really seen that have made a real difference for you when it comes to the stability that you were talking about in your previous answer?
Well, one thing, and this is actually more recent, is creating something completely original. In the beginning, I think we all kind of do this. We sort of teach what we know, but we probably learned it from somewhere else and different things like that. And one of the things that I think maybe held me back a little bit early on was I was just literally talking to everybody about all kinds of things. And, oh, you want to know how to do this on LinkedIn? No problem. This on YouTube? Okay. You want to, see this on TikTok? Great. Snapchat? Sure. We can talk about Snapchat, whatever it was like all social media. And part of it was niching down, although many people would argue that my niche is still very broad, being, multiple social media platforms and coaches and course creators and membership owners. But it's about creating something that is so unique that everything can be built around that. So now I have a framework that I teach called the DATE framework, DATE. And so I'm recreating all my content to fit that. And the impactful part that I wasn't kind of counting on in the beginning. It just started as, look, I need to simplify this for people. What will I do? And I love a good anagram. And so what I didn't expect is now that it's there, it's helped all of my members and then even people in my free content, which I'm starting to drip it into that, have a much clearer picture of what to do. And that's allowed them to take action quicker. And so it's certainly helped with the recurring revenue, but I think long-term, it's going to help a lot more because, since I created this and it works, you can't get it anywhere else, at least not as of yet. So that's been helpful.
It's an incredible answer. And I especially, resonate with what you were talking about, how clarity can really be what gives us those actionable steps that we're looking for to make a difference. So I think that all of that kind of ties in together to talk about the importance of knowing yourself, knowing what you're passionate about, and at the end of the day, also knowing how to serve your members in the best possible way using that original content, as you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Jerry, I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been super beneficial having you on air with us. As I mentioned earlier, I think that a lot of people in this space identify with some of the themes that you were talking about at the beginning of your entrepreneur journey. And I can't wait for your message to get out for everyone to see this, because I feel like everyone is going to have something that they can take away from this conversation. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.